I'd like to welcome my guests Ertha and Manuel to the conversation. We spent a number of hours preparing for this, and I'm really excited about this topic. I think it's timely. I think that our organizations are facing an inflection point, a transition moment that we've never seen in the history of our businesses and organizations. So it's really how we start to think about this is really important. What I want to do is I want to start before we jump into the meat of the dialogue. What I want to do is I want to take a few seconds and just kind of define what I think the problem is that we're seeing out there, that many of our organizations are seeing and experiencing. So we talk about this thing called the Great Resignation. And what I'm sharing here is a slide that compares 2 years together. It shows the year 2020, which is it's kind of a down year. COVID hit. You can see how, kind of numbers changed drastically in around the April timeframe of 2020 when COVID really kind of took its first bite out of us. Then we can look at what happened in 2021, and we can see that the amount of resignations have increased to be an all-time high. So what happened last year, when we think of last year, roughly about 47.8 million, almost 48 million people resigned from their positions, and they left the workplace. We're on pace to reach that number and potentially exceed that number in 2022. Matter of fact, I think last month was the highest number of resignations that have occurred since this has begun. And you can see over the course of the last year that we're averaging about 4 million plus people resigning from the workplace on an average basis. So this means that most of our organizations through the last couple of years have been running understaffed and trying to do the same amount of work, meeting the same number of patients, doing the same activities with less people to do this. And if we are also consuming energies and cycles, trying to retain and attract new talent and bring them in, so we're constantly interviewing, selecting new people, bringing them in. As soon as we get to a point where our staffing levels are whole again, we end up losing someone else and we'll go through the process over and over again. So we're in this mode of constant recruitment that we've never really faced in the same way in the past. And that's just to keep treading water. It doesn't impact the way we have to grow our organizations, adding people to grow our what we're putting in place. The second thing I thought was really interesting, the research we saw as I was preparing for this, that I thought was interesting, were the reasons why people are leaving. So you can see the chart on the left-hand side of the screen here, where we talk about low pay. And low pay is kind of a misnomer. I think what's happened in the last few years with COVID and the way things have happened is that people are a lot more sensitive to compensation as the overall driver for whether they're happy and content with their positions. And as unemployment has actually gone to a point where it's at an all-time low, or at least a 50-year low, what we're seeing is there's more opportunities to increase compensation. So people are leaving for more money. We see it happening every day. We also see people feel that they've hit that ceiling. They're doing the same job over and over. There's no room for advancement. There's no development being put into them. Employees are feeling disrespected. So we can go through all these different environments, but I kind of walked away from this with what I thought were the four main things that really people are looking for: new opportunities. They want to make more money. They want to do new and exciting things. They want to expand their professional careers and take on new challenges. So opportunity is a big driving factor that we're seeing in this current wave. The second thing that we've seen, and I think in the last 2 to 3 years, we've really seen this, there's been a high degree of burnout. As we do more work with less people, we have to invest more of our energy into getting the job done. So there's a burnout factor there. I will say COVID had a huge impact, especially in the healthcare industry. Coming in every day and you're being exposed to patients that have COVID and being in that environment, the threat and the concern for your family, the worry that brings, added to the stress of just trying to get the job done, having to change and redesign every workflow that we have to be able to work in a COVID environment, really kind of put a lot of stress on organizations, and people started questioning whether it was worth it for them. And many chose to opt out of the workplace or change because of that stress. Another interesting thing that happened is I sat down in the beginning of 2020, and I worked with a very large company, 14,000 employees, and I was helping them put together a work from home remote employee strategy. And this company was being very cautious about how they wanted to roll this out. Now, this is in December of 2019, January of 2020. So we sat down and I was talking to them about this concept that we need to think more holistically, that virtual work from home, the gig economy, Those kind of things were going to be realities that we're faced with, but they wanted to take a slow and cautious approach to this. So they identified 200 out of 14,000 people that would be designed from their base that would work from home. They redesigned and rewrote all their policies. They launched their policies at the end of February. Between then and the end of April, they rewrote the policy 4 times and relaunched their policy. It went from 200 people to essentially the entire organization that was working from home in less than 60 days. So what happened was our employee base, faster than we anticipated, was moved into a remote work from home environment. And once we opened up that bottle, it's like open up the genie lamp. The genie is out now. We can't go back and we can't change it. There are people that leave because they're leaving their jobs as they're being asked to come back into the workplace 3, 4, even 5 days a week. They're deciding that they want to work from home, and there's organizations that will allow that. So being able to work in this remote work from home environment has been really helpful. We've seen people in my own company and some of our clients we're working for that may be located in a geography, say like downtown Boston. That's where they live, that's where they work. They've decided to move to the country. Now they're living in Maine, doing the work from Maine versus in the Boston area. So it's changed the way we work in general. And the last area that we've seen, I think in the last 2 to 3 years, COVID has forced us, and not just COVID, but COVID's probably the main driver, has forced us to reevaluate what's important in our lives. And I think some people have reprioritized work as a lower priority, and they're putting more emphasis on family, connection, being more accessible, being more present in those environments, and they're de-emphasizing work, and they're consequently looking for jobs that promote that. So these are some of the reasons that we've seen people kind of resign from the organization. Now, what I want to do on this call, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to explore this any more than we've talked about today. But what I want to do is I want to shift the focus from the problem of resignation. I think there's a huge opportunity for us as business leaders to change the complexion of the way the workforce goes for the next 5 to 10 years. And what I want to do is I want to shift the conversation. What I think is the biggest opportunity for us is to focus on retention. How do we retain that talent that we bring to our organization that's essential to move us forward, will help us grow the organizations, help us serve our patients, and help us deliver the outcomes that we desire. And then as we are attracting new employees, we're retaining them for a longer period of time. So I'm referring to this as the great retention.